that's when I discovered more holistic health and how all of that's really connected. And it was definitely on this focus of improving my mindset of like, okay, I can do yoga to help me be more mindful, but it also
Hmm.
helps me with my body and my breath, and what I'm eating also helps with my mind. So I could see the connections of certain things like what we eat, what we do, all impacting our physical bodies, our mental, our emotional, energetic, all of that. So that's when I started to kind of reflect on, oh, maybe our spaces also do this as well. And
Hmm.
in interior design school, they talk about some of that, but diving into like holistic health and energy and spirituality on my own through my own journey, that's when I kind of bridged the two of like, wow, our homes actually do this as well and can be vehicles to support us physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically, all of the ways.
Do you want to wake up feeling like you're stepping into who you're meant to be, into the best possible version of you? What if I told you that the key to your best life, health, and happiness are all around you? You just have to find what works for you. I'm Hope Pedraza, and I believe that there isn't just one way to live a healthy and meaningful life, and that all you need is a little inspiration to make changes that last from the inside out. Each week, I'll be sharing tangible tips and inspirational interviews to help you on your journey. These are the steps to take to improve your life and live with purpose. This is Hopeful and Wholesome. Hey y'all, welcome back to Hopeful and Wholesome. Today I have on the show Marissa Lada. She is a holistic designer and home coach who helps women create a better relationship with their space so they can enhance their overall well-being. And we are talking all about holistic design today, how our homes impact our health, what is Feng Shui, how we can use Feng Shui, how it helps kind of impact the energy of our homes and our own like physical, mental, emotional energy, and really how we can apply holistic design into our homes without having to do anything crazy. Like this isn't about going out and buying any sort of like crazy furniture or things to add to your house to build in this kind of applying feng shui. But Marissa's going to give us really tangible things that we can do now to help improve the energy, and we'll go into exactly how it impacts our health and our energy. This is such a cool conversation. And I say this multiple times in the episode, but this is such a niche thing. It's such a unique thing. And that's why I had to bring Marissa on to talk about it, because it's not something we talk about a lot of times. You know, we talk about a lot of other aspects of our lives that impact our health, but this kind of your home and your space, I think this is something that we should really be talking about more. We spend a lot of time in our home and in our workspace, office space, that kind of thing. So lots of things to take away from here. Let's jump in.
All right, y'all, let's jump in. I'm here with Marissa, and I am excited about this conversation talking about and we talk about a lot of things holistic here on the show, obviously, but holistic design is not something that we've talked about. And so this is such a kind of I told her this is such like a nuanced niche thing that I mean, I've never seen anybody talk about. I'm sure somebody else on the planet exists that talks about it, but I just thought this was such a cool topic. So thanks so much, Marissa, for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast,
Yeah,
Hope. I so appreciate that.
yeah, for sure. So I would love to know, again, like I said, this is a very like niche thing. I would love to know how you got into this like holistic design, that you're helping people set up their homes and all that. Like, how did you get into this very niche field?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like story of my life. There's been a lot of points in my life that I feel have led up to this point. So I'll kind of highlight some of the main ones. Just growing up, I was very and still am very sensitive to spaces. As a kid, I just noticed, not only am I neurodivergent, but I am just like very sensitive to energy, very empathic. Didn't really realize these things consciously at the like couldn't put a label to them, but
Sure.
would notice how certain spaces really impacted me, both in
Mm-hmm.
my mindset, feeling overwhelmed, or just how that would impact my nervous system. So, my grandfather was actually a hoarder. So that I think really like
Mm.
put it to like, wow, this is not a good, space for me to be in.
Mm-hmm.
So having that extreme, I think, helped in some ways to where I'm at today. But that pursued my interest in spaces. I didn't realize holistic design was a thing. I actually discovered more of the traditional route of interior design. I was very fortunate enough to have a like extracurricular class in high school.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, like very fortunate because I know
Yeah.
like extracurriculars depending on the school district.
Mm-hmm.
So I was lucky enough to discover that and really fell in love with it for so many reasons, not only because of my interest in spaces, but just being a very creative person too. And just went that traditional route, went to school for it, graduated, worked in the industry on like a number of different types of design sort of field, like residential, commercial, multifamily, hospitality, like all of it, because I just wanted to absorb just like how our
All
spaces
of it.
impact us. And then it really wasn't until probably 2020, that's when I actually started my business. But kind of even during college, I, at the same time of getting my degree, was going through a lot of mental health issues, just depression, anxiety, and a lot of that. And that's when I discovered more holistic health and how all of that's really connected. And it was definitely on this focus of improving my mindset of like, okay, I can do yoga to help me be more mindful, but it also helps me with my body and my breath, and what I'm eating also helps with my mind. So I could see the connections of certain things like what we eat, what we do, all impacting our physical bodies, our mental, our emotional, energetic, all of that. So that's when I started to kind of reflect on, oh, maybe our spaces also do this as well. And in interior design school, they talk about some of that, but diving into like holistic health and energy and spirituality on my own through my own journey, that's when I kind of bridged the two of like, wow, our homes actually do this as well and can be vehicles to support us physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically, all of the ways. So that's kind of how I discovered and merged the two with holistic design. And then in 2020, that's when I started my own sort of holistic design business, which I didn't even know was a thing. I just, and again, intuitively was like, oh, it makes sense.
Right.
And now I've discovered more and more people talking about holistic design, which is so cool because again, I don't want to say I created the term, but I didn't hear it before.
Yes.
So to see it kind of being replicated by other people who also kind of believe this is so cool.
Yeah, I love that. That's so cool. I think, I mean, I agree. I think, well, and if you think about it too, I mean, if you really think about it, because from the surface, it is kind of, a very niche thing. But if you think about it, I mean, like you were saying, there's so many things that affect our well-being, our, mental, emotional, spiritual. So and it totally makes sense that our space should be something that we focus on, like something that we spend a lot of time in is going to affect our energy and our health and all that. So it makes total sense. So I guess, can you share some ways that, I don't know, this is kind of a loaded question, so you can, pick how you want to answer it, but here's some ways how our home can affect our well-being and affect our health.
Yeah. Gosh, where to begin? There's a lot. So I'll just kind of break it into categories like physical health, mental health, and kind of go from there. So from a physical health perspective, a lot of us, I think, might understand some levels. I mean, we think about kind of I think the big three, like lead, asbestos, mold, but it goes far beyond just those things. There's so many toxins that we bring into our homes, whether it's through our building materials, our paint, our furniture, but also in our everyday products that impact our health in so many ways, our cleaning products, our beauty products, all of that. So there's a lot of research showing how certain chemicals that we bring into our homes, like even in our candles, can impact our endocrine, like our hormones and be endocrine disruptors or cause respiratory health issues, cancers, things like that. We can also look at clutter too. Clutter is a big one that impacts our physical health from just, the culprit of stress. So there have been studies to show how people who live in cluttered bedrooms have worse sleep, or they're more likely to be obese or struggle with all of these other health issues. So those are some ways with physical health, and even just looking at color too, like from a holistic design perspective, certain colors can also impact our body and how we respond. So like the colors green and blue, for example, have been shown to lower our cortisol levels, so help us de-stress. Whereas the color red, since it's a color that our eye quickly picks up, it actually brings us to more aggression and raises our blood pressure. So that's why, especially design, it's like, don't do a whole red room. There's a lot of intense energy with that. So that's from a physical perspective. From a mental, you can look at that in so many ways. So again, with like stress and how to create a space that really, helps us relax, like with those colors I was mentioning, or even just, again, with stress. Like if we have a home that doesn't support us, say, for example, you love to cook and you're just like, that is what brings you happiness, but you're working in a kitchen that has like a square foot of counter space and it's cluttered and it's messy and it's just not functional. Like how much stress of just being in that space impacts you day after day after day. So there's certain things of just like, improved layout or organization that can really support you in your space, feeling more focused in your space. So a lot of research around how our homes really impact it, or how spaces, I should say, really impacts us, because it's not so much research done in homes, but actually there's a lot of research in office spaces, restaurants, bars, and hotels, because a lot of these corporations want to understand, like, how can we make our employees more productive? How can we have people buy more from our store? So a lot of that research out there, like you can still apply it to your home, but you can design your spaces to better your focus, help you relax, increase your energy if you want. So there's so many ways in which our homes impact us.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a lot. It is a lot. I mean, I know, and actually I'm going to ask you this first, because I was listening to this book about, I have always thought, and again, and of course I'm no expert, I have always thought it was Feng Shui. When I'm listening to this book, and the whole book, she's saying Feng Shui. So can you tell me, was the girl pronouncing it wrong, or is it like tomato, tomato? Like, I want to know that answer.
I mean, I have definitely heard it pronounced Feng Shui by not only like, my teacher who, was practicing for so many years, but by a lot of other Feng Shui experts. I know with Chinese, because that's where Feng Shui is rooted and originates in, that the pronunciation can be butchered sometimes. Like I also will hear people say, like, for example, yin, and everyone says a yang, it's yang. So just minor things like that. So I wouldn't worry too much about, the pronunciation of it, but there's so much nuance to just Feng Shui.
Yeah. I was just curious because I'm listening to it was kind of like nails on a chalkboard, because I'm like, I feel like that, I don't know. Anyway, that's beside the point. But I did want to ask you about Feng Shui, because I know, a lot of us kind of know the general thing of like what, like if Feng Shui is to help balance the home. But can you talk about how, because it's about energy, right? So can you talk about how we can use Feng Shui, like what it is and how we can use it to improve the energy of our inner homes?
Yeah, and I'm going to try to break this down the best I can, because Feng Shui is a over 2,500-year-old practice, and there's just so much to it. So I'm going to try my best to just simplify. But yeah, Feng Shui is working with the energy of spaces. A lot of times we think about that with our homes, but it actually originated looking at the energy, or how to assess burial plots, because again, rooted in Chinese culture, ancestors and like providing a good location for their burial plot for the afterlife was huge. And it was more looking at like villages and that form instead of our homes and our interior. The first school of Feng Shui is also known as the landscape schools. So that's where you can also look at like the landscape of your environment and nature. And so much of Feng Shui is actually rooted in nature. So how we can use that to benefit us in our homes, and like how we actually do that, is Feng Shui can be broken. I guess how you can use Feng Shui in my mind comes to like two different paths. You can do a very generalized approach of Feng Shui, of applying these principles to our space just to create more flow and harmony and balance in our homes, and just like feel overall, more positive in our spaces. Or we can get really fine-tuned and specific and use Feng Shui for manifesting, which is where it's like, oh, I'm going to add this certain cure to this sector of my home, like the wealth sector. I'm going to add a money tree. So there's different approaches of how you want to take Feng Shui, because again, it is energy work. So it's like when you're talking about energy, it's it's everything. So that's like the approaches. And then how you do that is, I like to look at that in 3 tiers as well. One thing is just assessing the space itself, like bare bones, the architecture and kind of that landscape. So, okay, this home has vaulted ceilings. This is going to kind of produce that type of energy. Or here's a layout of our stairs are facing our front door. So that's going to bring this energy. So one is just assessing like the overall space.
Mm-hmm.
Two is then looking at the furniture and how we lay that out and the decor and the design, which is where I think a lot of us tend to think about with Feng Shui is like moving this chair in this certain, position or corner, or having the bed placed against this wall. So that's Feng Shui. And then also Feng Shui is where we get specific with those cures, which are just like intentional items that we're again using for manifesting, which is another thing that a lot of us have an understanding within Feng Shui is like, I'm going to add this lucky bamboo to this, sector, or adding this to here, like placing a wind chime here. So Feng Shui works in many levels as well in that way. So, just kind of depending on how you want to do it. And then I would say also like everyone's space is different.
Mm-hmm.
So I know just because I work with so many people with Feng Shui and I talk and educate about it, there's a lot of misconceptions and myths, and also I think fear around Feng Shui, especially if you like read a blog post online or something and see, oh my gosh, my stairs are in this location and this, like, they kind of get freaked out about it. And there's always a fix with Feng Shui. Feng Shui is just like, let's fine tune things so we have just like better flow so we can kind of get the most out of our spaces and live in more harmony with the energy that our homes are naturally producing.
I love that. I love that. Are there any things like you have any like top 3 tips kind of thing that we can do to kind of implement some of this kind of Feng Shui into our homes now? Like things to help, like easy things that we're able to do to help improve the energy of our space?
Yeah, that's actually something I didn't quite mention with Feng Shui. So a lot of times people think it's, what can we do for our spaces? Like, or what can our spaces, like, I guess, do for us? Like moving a chair, adding this thing, but also Feng Shui, like we have a relationship with our homes. Like we also kind of input energy into our space. So a lot of these cures that you can just do right away are things like you can actually do. It's not going out and getting this specific thing. It's like, okay, what can I be putting into my space to create better energy? So the first tip I would say is declutter. It's like the biggest thing I would say before you even want to apply Feng Shui or work with manifesting with Feng Shui is decluttering, because you cannot call in new things and new energy if you still have this stagnation. You kind of need to let old things go, and our clutter holds on to so much energy. So I would say going through a declutter, which I know can be challenging for people. So if you struggle with that, feel free to reach out. I do help people through that. So decluttering is the first thing. 2, I would say kind of focuses on your kitchen. So kitchens are known in Feng Shui as a source of prosperity and abundance. So one of the things we can do is focusing on our stovetops. Actually, 2 things you can do with our stovetops. One is make sure they're clean, just to kind of like increase that energy that the stovetop produces. Stovetops are kind of like the money makers in Feng Shui. And then also make sure you're using all 4 or 5, depending on your stove, all 4 burners. I know we tend to, I have a favorite burner.
Yes,
I think a lot of people have a favorite burner, which is so funny. That's like, wow, we all have a favorite burner, I guess. But using more of, using all of them increases more opportunities to come into your life. So that's a tip that you can easily do. And then just to kind of round it out with 3 tips, I would say also with the bathroom, because the bathroom's another big area in Feng Shui. The bathrooms are where a lot of energy escapes our homes because they contain a lot of water energy. Water actually moves energy really easily. So one of the things you can do just to kind of slow down energy from escaping your home is to make sure you close your bathroom door, don't leave it open, and then make sure you close the lid to your toilet. I'm sure a lot of women are like, yes, please,
please do it.
Here's another reason why we should be doing this. But
hilarious.
Yeah, those are just some easy, it's you don't have to get super specific on your home. Anyone can do that with their space.
Yeah. Okay. So closing the door to the bathroom, that's interesting. That is okay. Those are all great tips. Yeah, like you said, easy things we can implement now. So what other sides of holistic design are we leaving out? Like what other things haven't we mentioned that are kind of a part of holistic design?
I would say so, because I didn't really know what holistic design was. And again, I don't want to say I created this term, but I think it's going to look maybe different to whoever you're talking
Sure.
to.
Mm-hmm.
For me, yeah, looking at just like the physical, the mental, the emotional, the energetic, like how our homes can really help us in just living better, healthier, happier, overall more positive lives, but how we do that. So talking about maybe the methods.
Mm-hmm.
So one, yeah, holistic design, which we kind of covered a little bit, Feng Shui. I also kind of incorporate sustainability. Like you don't have to be like super green or have solar panels or anything like that, but just a lot of that makes sense too from a health
Mm-hmm.
perspective. Like
Yeah.
if it's better for the planet, it's better for our
Yeah.
health.
Yeah.
Also, just looking at like organization and decluttering, that's a huge thing just because I mean, clutter just really impacts, us in a holistic perspective too. Again, the
Yeah.
mental, the physical, the emotional, all of that. I would say too, like Feng Shui kind of touches on this, but like just incorporating more nature in to
Mm.
our lives. We as humans have this deep connection to the natural world. There's
Mm.
actually a design theory that I learned in school called biophilic design that kind of talks about these reasons in a more, what's the word, like psychological or like logistic, kind of like left-brained way
Mm-hmm.
where I kind of tend to lean a little right, where I talk about very like woo concepts
Yes.
with
Yes.
with my
Mm-hmm.
clients and people. But however you choose to look at it, that's why I think holistic design is so cool because you can look at it in a very woo perspective and like talk about feng shui and all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can have like, here's the receipts, here's the research
The
to
science
back,
behind it.
yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
science behind
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, kind of talking about biophilic design. So we have this deep connection towards nature and the natural world from like an evolutionary standpoint. So how can we bring more nature in? That doesn't necessarily mean I need to live in a log cabin, but this can look like, adding more houseplants, having access to natural lighting, because that's
Mm-hmm.
huge on our mental and just like our
Yeah.
overall health.
Yeah.
How can we include more motifs of nature? So, like, nature is very fluid and organic. So, maybe incorporating more patterns that are free flowing and having more curves, because you see that a lot in nature. So,
Mm.
there's all of these other ways that you can bring more nature into your home. So that's another aspect I would say of holistic homes and holistic design.
Yeah.
So just to give you a few.
Yeah. No, those are great. I love all of those. And I love the nature part too. Cause I mean, speaking of the science, I mean, there's a lot of science about how plants help our physical bodies with, the oxygen and all of that. So I think that's a good one just on all fronts. And I just, for the record, in case anybody who has been here long enough, I have 200 plus episodes. So you've heard me say this a handful of times. I am a big fan of anything that blends science and woo. So I'm about this holistic design thing. So I'm like, yes, give me the woo, but then tell me the science. Like, I love it. So this is perfect. I love it. So this is so good. There's so many tangible tips that you've already given us. So I have another question I want to ask you that I like to ask everybody as we kind of wrap up. What are there any other, I know you've given a lot of good tips, but I want to make sure we don't leave any other tips out. Do you have any other tips or strategies people can implement like in their homes now that can help them kind of go more towards this holistic design way?
Yes. Well, I don't know if it's a very tangible, like right now tip, but it's a point for just reflection, I would say. Because even though a lot of what you can do is like, yes, I'll add a plant here to boost my mental health, or I'll
Sure.
add this or do that. A lot of, I think, like what I focus on with holistic design too is creating a space that you really thrive in. So that's a huge part, is like getting kind of back to you and what your needs are for your space, which is so unique to every person, because
Right.
what a peaceful home may look like for me might look very different for you based on
Mm-hmm.
who you are, your lifestyle, your needs, all of that.
Yep.
So I just want, people to kind of reflect on that, maybe of what is a space that I would want to be in? Because as much as I love talking about like these concepts, I definitely want it to be tangible for people
Sure.
too. And that's a huge part of like what I focus on, is how to actually make, your dream space a reality, but incorporating a lot of these holistic aspects so you can actually have a space you thrive in. I would say when you feel really good in your space, that translates to all other areas of your life. You're going to have more
Totally.
confidence. You like just feel better being recharged by a space just simply by being in it. like there's so many things that having a home you love can do. So just kind of reflecting on that, like, okay, what is the, space that I'd love to be in kind of look like? And I would say you can kind of categorize that by three things. Like, what do I need out of my space? What are my lifestyle needs? Like, how do I need the space to function? What is the intention I want? So do I want to feel cozy? Do I want to feel inviting? Do I want it to feel peaceful or recharging? What are those like adjectives?
Right.
And then also like, what is my style? And I'm not even looking at like trends or mid-century modern or art, all of these kind of like design styles, but like, what is my own personal style? What is my essence? How can I make that into my space? And that's where I think like the magic of our homes really can be, because our spaces are a reflection of us. So when we have that out into our space, like as we're recording this, I like, you said earlier, I'm in my camper van, and this is very like, this nurtures me whenever I'm on the road traveling. I can be in a parking lot and be like, I feel like I'm in a cozy log cabin, and I love that. And people see my space and they're like, oh my gosh, that is so you. And that's what I feel like our home should be, is like you walk in and like, yep, this is my personality on my wall.
Yes, that makes total sense. I love that. Yeah, thank you for putting that in, because that's important. There's a like individuality piece that applies to all of this. So I think that's an important thing to bring up. So thank you for sharing that. I love that.
Of course.
So, okay, before I ask you the last question, can you let everybody know where they can find out more about you and working with you, learning from you, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So I would say, if you're not, follow me on my social medias. So both TikTok and Instagram at Honeyloon Hivery. I would say I'm a little more active on Instagram, and I just like it because I can communicate with people more that way. But there's that on my website, honeyloonhivery.com. So that's where you can find me. And then if you are interested in working with me, I have a bunch of different options, because like I said, I like to kind of meet people where they're at. So whether it's interested in a Feng Shui consultation, want one-on-one holistic design work, or I have my Hello Holistic Home program, where people, like I was saying, figuring out your style and what your holistic home kind of means for you, kind of going through that holistic home journey of how to create your holistic home. So those are just some of the things that I do.
Perfect. I love it. So options for everybody. Do it on your own or work directly with Marissa. Like, I love it. It's perfect. Okay. So the last question I want to ask you, that I like to ask everybody to wrap up: what do you think is the most important thing you can do to live with purpose?
I would say, can only speak for myself. I would say living with purpose is just living, like, for me, it's being authentic to who I am, living in alignment. And that just, for me personally, has come with a lot of just getting comfortable with myself, knowing myself, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of personal alone time. But the more I've learned about myself, the more I think that purpose has kind of shown up and shown through in my life. So that's kind of what living with purpose means for me.
Yeah, I love that. It's so true. I mean, you're right. I 100% agree with you. Living authentically you is living with purpose, because nobody else is you but you. So I think that ties it in great. Thank you so much, Marissa, for informing us and educating us on holistic design. I know there's a lot that we can implement just from listening to this, but y'all go follow Marissa, check out all of the things that she's doing, and make your home more balanced. I love this. Thank you so much, Marissa.
Thank you so much, Hope.
Thanks for listening to Hopeful and Wholesome, y'all. If you found value in this week's episode, please subscribe on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast, and leave a review to let me know what you thought. I'd love to know what you find useful in these episodes, so I can know how to provide the most value I can to my listeners. And if you have topics you'd like to know more about, I'd love to hear those as well. So shoot me a message on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. It's at The Hope Pedraza, or you can visit my website, hopefulandwholesome.com. Thanks, y'all.